Hey there, career seekers. Welcome to Find Your Passion Career. I'm here to help you find a career you like, and dare I say, possibly even love. I'm your host, Amanda Nachman. I'm the founder and CEO of College Magazine. After working with thousands of college students, I've noticed that when it comes to career, there's a lot to demystify. Let's get started.
Let's go.
Hi, everyone. Today I have with me Jessica Bacal. What do you do when you hear the word no? Do you stop, spiral, start questioning everything, or do you pivot? Because here's the truth. Rejection isn't the end of your story. It's often the plot twist that changes everything. The real question isn't if you'll face rejection, you will. It's how you respond when it happens, especially when the future feels unclear and the next step isn't obvious. That's exactly why this conversation matters. Today, we're joined with Jessica Bacal. She's author, educator, and career coach who has literally made a career out of studying rejection. As the director of reflective practices at Smith College, she teaches students how to navigate uncertain futures, a skill we could all use. She's also the author of The Rejection That Changed My Life and Mistakes I Made at Work, where she shares the real stories behind successful women's career journeys, the messy and rejection-filled path we don't always see. And here's the mindset shift Jessica shares. When I get discouraged, she says, I remind myself that I'm in it for the long game. So if you've ever been told no and felt stuck, this one's for you. Welcome to the podcast, Jessica.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So when you were in school, what did you imagine your career path would look like? And when did you first realize it might take a different direction?
I was very confused when I was in school. I really didn't know. I knew that I liked writing and I knew I liked children. I was an English major at a liberal arts college.
English majors.
Yeah. I went to Carleton College in Minnesota. And I don't know, I was really uncertain. So let's see. I graduated and I got a job at Parents Magazine. That was my first job out of college. And I was an editorial assistant, and then I was promoted to assistant editor. So it was like I was like doing fine with it. It was like a very
That sounds like a
job.
Dream job for a lot of people.
Yes, I think there were a lot of good things about it. I learned a lot. I learned skills that I use today, even because I was a fact checker, and so just like keeping a careful trail of like my notes, and my just keeping track of your work and knowing who you got what information from. I also like worked in an office. I'd never done that before.
You're probably also learning a lot about what it takes to be a parent, even though you weren't in that space yet.
Yeah, although the column that I edited was the family pet column. So
they're like, let's put this person on the family pet column.
Yeah, which I kind of loved. I love animals. But as I was there, I looked at working in a magazine, and I thought, like, I don't know if I would want the job of editor-in-chief. Like, when I think of staying here for the long haul, would I really want to do the job of this woman, Annie Murphy, who was then the editor-in-chief? And I felt like I wanted to do something that was more with people, that was more like every day, where I was feeling more like I was making an impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes the writing process can be lonely.
Yeah, writing and editing and just like
Fact
being in an
checking.
office with the same people every day, really nice people, but then going out and getting my salad for lunch and coming back to my desk. And it's
these are great questions to ask people in their careers, right? How much are you interacting with people? And I love that you look to someone ahead, the steps ahead, the many steps ahead, to say, where is this going? In what direction am I going? And is that what I want for myself? So if you're listening, think about who, if you're in that entry level job, or if you're mid-level, and looking ahead and saying, is that what I desire? The CEO role or that senior manager role, is that for me?
Yeah, I think so. It's like part of me thinks, well, Like, I wonder if I had really sat down with her and asked her, what do you like about this job? What is this job? You know,
Oh,
she was so busy. I never would have asked her to do that. But I don't know. Like, it was what I understood from the outside that her job was. But, who knows? Maybe if I had gotten a little bit of a deeper understanding through talking to her or talking to other people, I don't know if I would have made a different call, because I did continue
yeah.
to really love writing and editing. But what I decided at that time, and I was learning a lot, doing a lot of fact checking about like health and pediatrician's advice for parents. And I decided I think I want to go back and take pre-med classes and go to medical school.
Okay.
And so I left and I got a job working for a pediatrician. This was in New York City, as a medical assistant. And also started volunteering at a pediatric emergency room. And
Meanwhile, are your parents supportive of all of these changes? Are they like, great, she's going to med school? Or are they like, wait, what is she doing? She's changing track.
yeah, I think my parents were like, they were pretty supportive. They were pretty supportive. Yeah.
That's amazing because that takes a lot of guts to make a change like that.
Yeah, interestingly, both of my parents had kind of unusual careers where my mom had switched her career. She had been a teacher and she became a psychologist in her 30s. And my dad had also had a kind of unusual career path. So they were pretty encouraging,
Yeah.
of me doing what I wanted to do, which, I was lucky, in that way, definitely really lucky. And I think I was also no, I wasn't living at home, but like that was an option for me. Like I was in New York
Mhm.
City and my parents lived in New York. I grew up there. So like it was always an option. Okay, if I want to not have a roommate and not pay rent for a little while, my parents would let me live in my old room.
Right.
Um, but then I
Nice support
decided,
system in place.
yeah, it really was great. Yeah, and not everyone has that. But yeah, I just working for a doctor's office made me realize I didn't want to be a doctor. Uh,
Mm.
the kids that I saw every day didn't want to be seeing me. Like
Oh, yeah.
I realized,
Hmm.
like I really like kids, but here was a job working with kids where the kids are like screaming when they have to come in and see you, you know?
And then they remember
Yeah,
and they hold on to that and they're
right.
holding on a grudge for sure.
Yeah,
Like, you gave me that shot last time, or I know what this place
exactly.
will
So
still
I,
do.
that made me think maybe I'll try teaching. So then I went and became an assistant teacher, at a independent school in New York. And that was where my path took off from there. I've been teaching in some way ever since, and thinking about how to like communicate ideas and work with people. And um, it has been really fulfilling to do that. I mean, I don't still teach little children, but I do teach college students. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, so let's talk about that. You have this unique role as director of reflective practices at Smith College. It really sounds like a dream role. How did that opportunity come to life and that transition from, teaching young children to now college students? And what does your day-to-day work with students entail?
Yeah, so I also had a little bit of a career change in my 30s. We moved out of New York City, when I was probably like 35. I was married, I had a baby. Um,
Yes,
and
leaving the city.
yeah, left the city, and I um I really wanted to work at Smith College. I don't know, I had friends who had gone to Smith College. I just thought like this is a place where uh young people, where women, it's a historically women's college. It's a place where women, feel really empowered. My friends who had come out of here were really purposeful, driven people, and I thought it would be an exciting place to work.
Yeah.
I applied for two different jobs here and just got form letters back. Like one was,
Mm.
I was like, I'll just work, even if I can work, at HR at the front desk, like I would do that, just anything. I applied to work at the writing center. I didn't get either of those jobs.
Yeah.
And then through my mother-in-law, basically a connection and networking helped me get my foot in the door. So my mother-in-law had a friend who had a grant-funded project, and it was very low paying, but uh, I interviewed and she hired me. It was part-time. Um,
But
I
anything to
was,
get your foot in the door.
yeah,
And you
exactly.
leveraged a connection because
Yeah.
that's how it works.
It really is. And I'm always trying to get my students, I mean, I tell my students that like I work here because of a connection. And I really try to have them practice making connections and using their networks and sometimes networks that they don't even realize they have. Like I have a student who got a job through like a high school teacher or, there's people, it doesn't always have to be people who are like in fancy professions. Sometimes you have networks that you don't even realize that you have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking to
Yeah.
your teachers, your professors, they're
Yeah.
connected
Yeah.
and they want to support you.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I started working here on a grant-funded project. It was called the Women's Narratives of Success Project. And it was really, I mean, my job really was to um, encourage. I helped to run a retreat, to plan and run a retreat
Cool.
that was for students. We took them away and we invited them to do reflective writing and talking about like what does success mean to them and failure and what are their narratives that are in their family about those things.
Such
And
important questions to ask ourselves. How many
yeah,
of us are asking those questions
yeah.
today versus looking
Yeah.
back and asking them?
Yeah, and it's really interesting, people, it's often conflicting narratives. Your mother or father, caregiver might have um, an idea about like what success looks like for you that's different than your idea of what success looks like, or
Mhm.
about what failure looks like. And we even had students think about, well, what do you think your parents think success is for themselves and failure for themselves? I mean, how
Ooh.
did you grow up? Like what was in the air? Anyway, that retreat, writing, talking, thinking, and then there was like a big talk that I planned once a year. And that part-time job evolved into like other roles here, and ultimately into teaching this class. Yeah.
Nice. So you figured out how the equation for getting your foot in the door
Yes.
and your career grew from there
Hmm.
at a place that had originally rejected you, which this is how jobs work oftentimes. But I
Yeah.
think there's this feeling, especially when you go to reapply, that, oh, well, they already said no.
Right.
How do you overcome that? Because I've done it myself, uh,
Yeah.
and I think many people have. And even places don't see you the same way that you might think they would see you if you reapply.
Right.
Why isn't it seen as something that's like, wow, what a go-getter reapplying? Like they really are passionate about this place. Like you really care
Yeah.
to work, you really want to work at Smith. You have these great reasons. You felt like they created these students that were so purpose driven and you wanted to be a part of that magic.
Yeah.
Why
And I
wouldn't
think
they want
that's like,
someone to reapply?
yeah, like that's something people don't always understand is that when you're on the interviewing end of like, reviewing resumes or interviewing candidates, like it really makes a difference that the person is interested in your organization or company specifically. Um,
Mm-hmm.
not just being a teacher or working at a college, but like why this college? Why this place and why this area within this place? And that can be really hard when you're a job applicant because you're kind of like, well, I just need a job. I just I obviously have to make money. I just want a job. But there's that, going that extra mile and including reapplying it. I think it can be really meaningful and make a difference to the people in that hiring position.
Yeah. So finding that meaning for yourself first and then going for it and being fearless to go for it again and
Yeah.
convey that meaning, which then speaks volumes to the people on the interviewing side.
Yeah. I think so.
I want to talk about your books. So, what inspired you to write The Rejection That Changed My Life? And what drew you to featuring stories around failure and rejection? I think what most people would like to not talk about. And what have those stories taught you?
So, um, the idea for the book came from an experience that I had. I was working at Smith. I was running a center by this time. It was called the Center for Work and Life. And basically a new president of the college came in, and that president had a new vision for what the center should be.
Mm,
And he wanted it to be more a center for leadership, and the idea of what the Center for Work and Life was more about a kind of holistic approach to making connections between your work and your life. And she wanted to focus more on leadership. So she said, "Hey, you can apply." It wasn't the president I was dealing with, but that it was about her vision. And so the people in charge of the search said, you can apply to run this new version of the center. So it
mm.
would be like a different version of your own job. Um, and so I did. I threw my hat in the ring for like a different version of my own job.
That sounds
And
like such a tough
yeah,
situation
it
to
was
be
kind of
in.
horrible. Yeah.
Wow.
It's really hard to be in an internal job search, like where you're trying to get a different job at your own in your own organizations, because people know that it's making yourself vulnerable. Like you're putting yourself out there and
Yeah.
taking a risk among people um who know
That
you.
sounds
And
incredibly stressful, right? Imagine you're out there and you're like, my job has just been canceled, but they told me I could apply for another version of this, but I have to
exactly.
reapply.
Exactly. So it was really stressful, and I did apply, and they gave the job to someone else. So they were like, okay, now not only are you not,
Devastating.
yeah, it was devastating. You're not running this center. We gave the job to someone else. I really didn't even know what the future of my job here would look like.
Wow.
I wasn't being fired, but I was like, am
Hmm.
I reporting to this person who is running this center? Like, what's going to happen? Everything was just very murky.
The uncertainty of it all.
Yeah. And I just felt terrible. And I was like, I had this previous book I'd published where I'd interviewed women about mistakes. And it just came to me like, oh, this would be really interesting. Like, I would love to hear stories from women about rejection. Like, this is what I'm experiencing. It feels really bad. Like, I know I'm going to get through it, but I would love some role models. I'd love to hear how other people have gotten through it.
Yeah. Especially
Um,
you find these really impressive women in their careers who are so established that we all look up to. Like you have Carol Dweck in there, and you have the CEO of Media Bistro. I mean, people that you're like, no way have they experienced anything hard. They're so successful, right? Like maybe they've had challenges, but like no way have they experienced like rejection like I have. And it
right.
turns out they have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it turns out that, really every successful person has experienced rejection. And, even very successful people have experienced like terrible and hurtful rejections. Um, but, you know, I don't know. I really, once I started doing these interviews, I mean, people were really, it wasn't that hard to get people to agree to tell these stories because I think people saw like, oh yeah, there's not that much out there. There's not enough out there.
There's so much value in telling that story. It probably felt nice to get to tell the story because leading up to that point, we don't have a space for those stories. Like those
Yeah,
stories aren't available to us, or it seems like encouraged. Like, oh,
right.
tell me about your rejection. Let's talk about this.
Yeah. So like one of my favorite stories is actually about, we were just talking about reapplying to the same
Mm.
place. Um, a psychiatrist, a successful psychiatrist, Elizabeth Bell, who applied to medical school multiple times. She was in a study group. She was a parent. So she was had ba she had one small child by the time she was in a career change. She had been an English teacher. She decided she wanted to go back to school. She wanted to be a doctor, and she was taking all these pre-med classes. And she had a study group where they met regularly, and she would have her baby next to her in a stroller every week
Wow.
with this study group. The whole study group applied to medical school, and she was the only one who was rejected from every place.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
Yeah. The way she tells it, she was rejected 18 times from 17 schools because one place they let her reapply and then they rejected her again.
Okay, that just
So
sounds
she's
miserable.
it's just like a real, I don't know, I love that story because she's such a model of resilience. Like she, figured out what she needed. She really wanted to do this. And she went back and I think she retook one of the pre-med classes and she did more studying for the MCATs and she figured out what she needed to do to make herself a better candidate. And she told herself she'd allow herself 3 tries of application process to med school. And ultimately she was accepted and she's had a great, really successful career.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you read that, when listeners, when you read this book, when you read about these rejections, it's a reminder that they can do it, you can do it. And
Yeah.
they push through. And if you're really passionate about something, why not go for it? Why
Yeah.
not? And why not figure out that blueprint, right? That the equation for how to be successful. Like she didn't just say, I'm going to reapply given the same circumstances that I already have within me
Right.
or my experiences that I have, but I'm going to go level up on my MCAT, or I'm going to maybe, I'm not exactly sure what other steps she
Yeah.
took, but I'm sure that she took other steps,
Yeah.
because that is right. If you're just doing the same thing, that's the insanity part of it. But it's the leveling up and going after your goals.
Yeah, she was really thoughtful and purposeful. What did she need to do differently for the next round, before the next round of applications? And yeah.
And how many of us are asking those questions right after a rejection? We're like, we go through, all these stages of misery and
Mhm.
or feeling shame, feeling like you can't share that story versus, what can I learn from this?
Mhm.
How can my story change from here? What can I do with this
Yeah.
rejection?
Yeah.
And for you, well, tell us, I mean, obviously your story didn't stop there. How did you reinvent from your rejection?
Yeah. So, I was really lucky in a way that kind of around the same time I had been teaching these workshops at Smith that were reflective workshops for students to help them make connections between their work in and outside of the classroom. And um,
So
at a certain,
important. So many people
yeah,
don't know how to connect those dots. Like what you're doing at
yeah,
school is essentially you're still gaining that work experience.
right. And it was, really kind of helping people to tell their story and identify skills that they were getting from their experiences. And uh, I ended up, well, I stayed at the college. I did not have to report to this new person. I kind of um, ended up, as a colleague, as her colleague. And one thing that came out of it is, she ended up being a great colleague. She's still here, and she's really, she's a very smart, interesting person. And I think once I got over being hurt, which did take some time, like I was able to open myself up to like what I could learn from her. And she is different from me. She has a background in, she's really interested in collaborative leadership. I think she's brought a lot to the college. And then in the meantime, I was asked to turn my workshops into credit-bearing courses. And that was really exciting for me. And that was, I think, ultimately a better direction for me than reimagining a whole center. I think I really like teaching, and it was a great opportunity for me to kind of go deeper. So instead of something being a one-off workshop, I had to think about how to make it a semester-long course. And that was exciting and fun and interesting. And um, it
A
ended up,
new challenge. And
yeah, it
it
was a new
sounds like you
challenge.
found so many silver linings to this rejection, but it hurts, which is human.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why we don't want to talk about it, right?
Right.
It's and maybe the distance from the hurt makes it easier to talk about, like for those women in your book. But
Hmm.
I do think that there's value of talking about it even in the moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and talking to people who love you and are supportive of you no matter what. And it's like you're more than just your work. And yeah, I mean,
The rejection
having
doesn't define you.
right, it doesn't define you.
It's not define you.
So yeah, I think talking about it in the moment and ultimately, it's great when you have enough distance that you can then help other people, your friends or whoever else, by being able to say, look, this happens. Yeah.
When you listen to those stories for your book, from the mistakes that women had in the workplace and what they learned from them and the rejections they experienced. What have those stories taught you?
Um, Let me think about it.
I know it's a lofty question because there's so
Yeah,
much I
yeah,
probably that you gain from just having those conversations.
yeah. I mean, I think, for one, like I've already said, there's no shame in trying for something over and over,
Mhm.
especially, if you really are reflective about how you can approach it from a different angle or with a new set of tools or
Yeah.
with new information. Um, I loved in the rejection book the approach of Emily Winter. She's a comedy writer, and she talked about gamifying rejection. She really flips things on their heads in that she did this project of trying to get 100 rejections. So she was aiming to be rejected.
We
Um,
interviewed Gabrielle Carr just last week
uh-huh.
on 1,000 rejections,
Oh, I
and she's
love that.
keeping a journal to get rejected 1,000 times, and she's
Wow.
documenting it all on Instagram
That's
and,
amazing.
and TikTok, and people are getting their journals now.
Yeah, and that makes, I mean, then you end up first of all kind of building this the muscle to deal with rejection, but also you might have successes that are kind of surprising. Like Emily told me about she's a comedy writer, and she sent pieces to the New Yorker. She never would have done that, but she ended up getting published in the New Yorker, because she
So
she
cool.
took that risk.
You
So
probably, and you have to sit down and dream bigger because you're like, well, I need to accumulate some of these rejections. So what
right.
what else? Let's get some moonshots in here. Why not?
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
become fearless.
I need to follow this person on Instagram. What's her name?
Gabrielle Carr.
Gabrielle Carr. Okay. Um, I think also, this idea of like, yes, you need to feel your feelings and like feel your feelings and then pick up and move on. Like, don't wallow for longer than you
Mm,
have to. Like,
yeah.
Tara Schuster, who you mentioned earlier, she was a producer at Comedy Central. She helped develop Key and Peele. She's also a writer.
I've read her
She has,
book, The
yeah,
Flowers.
yeah,
Send yourself the flowers
yes. Um,
with an expletive in there.
right, exactly. I like how she has this whole kind of self-care ritual after a rejection of like taking herself out for a meal and like really allowing herself to feel her feelings. And then like she gives herself like, you have 3 days or you have a certain amount of time and then it's time to move on. So I think, both are true. Like we have to feel our feelings, but then in a way it's like you can't move on if you're in too wallowy a space,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. Don't try to redesign your life when you're wallowing, right? Give
Yeah.
yourself a little bit of that time
Yeah.
because then you have clarity and more perspective, and you can then use that rejection to fuel you.
Right.
Next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many
Oh,
beautiful
yeah.
lessons.
I mean, I loved it was it was so much fun to get to do those interviews and I guess I just learned that like, even really powerful, successful women have really textured lives and experiences. And like, it's not, you look at someone and it looks so smooth, but it really is not for anyone.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's had just that upward trajectory without the bumps and the roller coaster, especially for the entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I remember the roller coaster of
Yeah.
running College Magazine, and the highs are high and the lows can be devastating. So
Yeah.
I think it really humanizes those people who are very successful to hear those stories. I think that's so important that you got to talk to them and share those stories with
Yeah.
us. So thanks. Well, okay. So this season, we're diving into what it really means to feel qualified and how to move through rejection. I think we covered a bit about that, but what
Yeah.
is being qualified, that term, qualified, what does it mean to you? Because I think when we look at these job postings and the endless bullets,
Yeah.
oftentimes we feel like, I'm just not qualified. Like, why would I even go after that?
Mm.
And it's a theme that I think comes up again and again for us at every level that we achieve. What does it mean to
Yeah.
you?
Well, I mean, to me, I think it means like being up for a challenge. Like that the people around you will be able to rely on you, for doing, you know, for doing your job, but ideally they'll leave you room for making mistakes, for learning. I mean, so I think being qualified, it doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean like never failing. Ideally, like a work culture allows for people to grow. So just because, and I know that's not the case for every work culture, but like I think that's how you like develop people and how you get the best people to stay is allowing them room for growth and for iterating on things to make them better. So I feel like part of to me being qualified is like having a certain kind of energy and ambition to like keep improving and to be up for like problem solving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you see that too in the bullets, right? If they want a problem solver. So that means that someone's not going to come into this role knowing the answers, but that
yeah,
they have to solve those problems. And wow, shouldn't growth mindset be on every posting because you want someone that is going to come in not being like, I know it all, I have all the
right.
answers. Um, but that I'm here to learn and grow too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'd say that to me that yeah, being qualified is just you're ready to take on challenges and you're willing to grow and it doesn't have to be that you can do everything on a
Yeah.
job list. And I think often like the people like we want to work with people who have that like can-do attitude. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's remind ourselves that every time we go after that next thing, that
Yeah.
they want people who can learn and grow.
Yeah.
What's one mindset shift or practice you wish every college student could adopt as they approach their career, especially when they're afraid of rejection?
Hmm. I mean, I really like something we use in my class is called the challenge mindsets approach. Are you familiar with this? JP Michelle, he's like, we use these cards where students they sort these cards and they think about what are the big challenges in the world that are compelling to them. So maybe one might be like
Ooh,
solving, helping to end poverty, or another might
mhm.
be like thinking about how to like um, to educate people and create schools of the future, or another might
That's a
be
great
like,
way to get at someone's values that they may not even
yeah,
realize that they have. Because when you realize an issue that you care so much about, that speaks to your values.
yeah, exactly. So, thinking about more about like the big issues and what the world needs. And
Hmm.
then, there are many ways and many paths to get there. So it's not just like, and there's more than one job that would help you
Yeah.
um, think about, for example, designing the schools of the future. Maybe you are an educator, maybe you're in data, maybe there's a lot of, so I guess I like the idea of students thinking less about like, what am I going to major in? And then what can I do? And more about what does the world need? And what are, based on my interests and skills, how can I rise to meet that? And
Mm.
sometimes those things happen like for your first job, you can engage with these things outside of the money making world also. Like there are ways sometimes you're doing something for a job that might not align with your passions right away, or the problems that you want to see solved, but maybe you're doing work in your community that relate to
Yeah.
those.
Or taking improv classes and
Right.
realizing bringing joy to people,
Hmm.
being spontaneous, yeah, taking on that awkward moment in silence and
Hmm.
figuring out what to do next. Maybe that's going to help lead you into your next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Improv is such a great practice for getting comfortable and being able to think on your feet. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we use that in a leadership class that I'm part of. So it's a theater leadership class where we
Oh,
use
wow.
improvisation to help people be okay with not knowing all the answers in the moment, and then
Yeah.
how do you work with that and feeling comfortable with that, and using
Yeah.
passive inquiry, for instance.
I think that's the other, that another shift in mindset, I think, what I hope people come out of my class knowing is that there's just going to be some uncertainty in the process of finding your job, finding your career, and just no one, I think getting a little more comfortable with that uncertainty is really useful.
And no one tells you that, right? You think,
Yeah.
oh, once I have the career, that's where I have all this certainty and everything builds from there. And so, it's not a really fun message to be the one to deliver that message
Right.
that it's just going to be continual uncertainty. And being okay with that uncertainty is part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a hard lesson. I think that I'm still learning throughout
Yeah.
my career journey. And I
Right.
think so many people are, no matter how far into it you are, at every level. Okay, well, before we wrap, tell us about the object you brought today and how it reflects your passion.
Um, well, I brought this book, Educating Esme, Diary of a Teacher's First Year. I don't know if you've ever read this.
I know this book. I don't
Yeah,
think I read it, but I know this book. And
I
I bet
really
it's
love
exciting.
I love memoirs about work. And I
Yeah,
think this is an underutilized tool for young people like looking for jobs. I
they
do
need to
think
know the horrors of the first job. They need to know.
yeah. And I
Mhm.
think you by really like getting into someone's story, there's some great memoirs. Even like Becoming by Michelle Obama, there's some chapters that are about her like going to law school and then her first corporate job and how she just felt like she wondered, why am I doing this? This isn't like what I care about. I think that there's a lot you can learn from reading other people's stories. So I love memoirs about work, and that I recommend that people seek them out.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. You write these memoirs, and so this is your object, and it really does reflect your passion. Was this the book that sparked for you to write one?
No, I read this when I was a teacher and I remember it being incredibly helpful for me. Like I just loved it. It's funny and fun and it's about her being in a classroom. I've always loved memoirs and like I love Ruth Reichel's memoirs. She writes about being a food critic for the New York Times and
Oh,
there's a great one called Lab Girl by Hope Jaron about being a biologist. Like,
oh.
I love finding these stories and sharing parts of them with my students.
Well, and specifically memoirs about people's careers, and
Yeah,
that's your
exactly.
space. And
Yeah.
so getting a peek inside someone's career and seeing it more than just the job description that it is, and more than just, right, what is this person doing on a day to day, but getting an inside look into what the ups and downs are,
Hmm.
and the conversations that they've had to experience and the letdowns. And it just shows you that this is a very human experience. The career is very uncertain, and not all of them are great, but you can
Hmm.
learn from them,
Right.
and that
Yeah.
there's learning and growth. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was so
Thank you for
wonderful to
having
speak
me.
speak with
Yeah, it was great
you.
talking to you.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for the students in your class this quarter or semester. I'm over here on the West Coast with the quarter system,
Yeah, yeah.
but what a great opportunity for them to reflect and to ask these important questions and to write their story as they set out to start their careers.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the podcast. And remember, your career is uncertain, and there will be rejection, but there's so much that you can learn from it and to keep that growth mindset throughout. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for listening to our show. Be sure to check out the show notes and email any questions to yourpassioncareer@gmail.com. Bye.